Well, I just want to begin by thanking everybody for your patience because I know that it's been a long haul to this point, and there's a lot of work being done, and you have a job to do, which is to cover the story and to cover different perspectives. We've asked a lot of you, and you've been very cooperative. So let me just begin by saying thank you for understanding the challenge that we face in working with the parameters that we've asked you to consider and abide by. I also think it's important, these I get to work in this context where obviously we have a great responsibility, and I'm really proud of the men and women in the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office and our law enforcement partners and the job that they're doing. But because we're in this space, we get a chance to see everything from the inside out. And folks can get emotional. There's a lot at stake. They can sometimes act irresponsibly. There are a lot of folks who are very comfortable in saying things that are unkind and oftentimes volatile or disrespectful. But it's important for folks to be adults in the room when some are acting like children. And I don't mean that to cast disparaging words towards anybody individually, but we know there's some people that just get overzealous and do some things that give us cause for concern. Otherwise, the sheriff wouldn't be here talking to you. But somebody who I think has done an exceptional job being the adult in the room, being very thoughtful with the processes, sharing information on a regular basis, and making sure that as across the nation, a lot of folks are saying, why is it taking so long in Arizona? That you have someone who is taking the lead to speak to you every day to help you understand why. And that's Chairman Bill Gates. I just want to commend him because I think he's done an exceptional job of making sure that everything that can be shared is shared in a timely manner, that you understand why there are challenges and complications, but ultimately there's a commitment to one thing that is most important, that every legal vote is counted and that the results are 100% accurate. And Stephen Richer obviously works in that space with him, Recorder Richer, but I'm not a person who believes in political lines. I believe in people, and I think he's done an exceptional job. So I just want to start off by saying that because it has made our job easier also. Now, as far as today, it's the first day that we've seen really a crowd gather outside. You've been here since the beginning when I made the commitment to how invested we would be with the resources and equipment to ensure the safety of the people in this building and every ballot is protected. Today we saw a group come out, and I professed leadership means being thoughtful with your words and recognizing the consequences or what your words can provoke others to. And we saw yesterday there were some tweets going out from at least one elected official summoning folks to come here today and to be heard. And it gave me some cause for concern and some pause because you may be well intended, but that doesn't mean that everyone who responds to your calling has the same intentions, and it can empower them into a space where bad things can happen. So we were very concerned. We made sure that we once again dedicated additional resources because we want to see a safe environment at the cost of other needs around the county for law enforcement, at the cost of taxpayer dollars. Deputies, in addition to those we had stationed here, came to the facility to make sure everything was safe. Now, as for the crowd outside, they were peaceful. They had an objective. They stayed within that scope, and they left in a reasonable amount of time. I did have some safety concerns, which is there were some folks marching in the street, and we want to make sure that area is safe. But fortunately for us, we have a great partner in the Phoenix Police Department who showed up, and they helped us address the problem in the street to make sure that no one was in harm's way and that people were abiding by the law. Aside from that, there was one other instance actually I do want to point out, which is there was one person who I guess had some heat exhaustion or something to that extent. Our deputies cared for them. We called paramedics, and that person, my understanding, is fine. Ultimately, we're getting closer to the end of this process, and my hope is that all the answers come to rise to the top. Every election is counted and ends in the next few days without any need for recounts. We'll stay here through the duration, though, but thus far into it, I just want to say thank you. I think that the community has responded in a very positive way. I think those folks who came out today were law-abiding, and they had their chance to express their First Amendment. We respected that. And this is kind of an odd one. I'm going to give a shout-out to somebody, I guess. There's a young man named Charlie Kirk as part of an organization. I don't have a whole lot of familiarity with it, but he sent out a message and said, hey, be law-abiding and please, don't gather around the county facilities and let folks do their job or something to that extent. And it seems as though his words resonated. He's viewed as a leader in some factions and some groups, and they responded to it. That's helpful for law enforcement. If you really care about this building, this vote, these people, and this law enforcement community, then help us get our job done, and those are the types of things that are helpful. So that sums it up for me. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. You want to do that now, or you want to do it at the end?
Let's do it at the end.
Okay, I apologize. I'll turn it over to Supervisor Gates now, but thank you.
Hi, good to see everyone again. Thank you very much, Sheriff Penzone, for the kind words, but more importantly, thank you for your leadership of this community, Maricopa County, and helping everyone to feel secure through this process. As I've said before, it's really sad that we have to think about these things in the context of an election in a democratic republic, but we do. We know that because of what happened right outside of this building in 2020. But again, Sheriff Penzone has been an incredible partner of the Board of Supervisors, Recorder Richer, and then along with our other local law enforcement, City of Phoenix and others, and our federal partners. This didn't just materialize here in the last few days. This is a project that Sheriff Penzone has been working on in collaboration with many for months. And again, I just thank you. I thank your team. And I think I speak on behalf of everyone in this building that we're all so grateful for what you've done. First of all, I wanted to say thank you again to our folks who are working so hard back behind us here and throughout the building, and we continue to process through the ballots and tabulate the ballots and report new numbers, and we're going to continue to do that in a way that is moving along very efficiently and also ensuring that all these votes are counted accurately. As I mentioned during yesterday's press conference, the mandatory hand count was started today, going along very nicely. This is a very important part of the process, particularly when we have so many questions that are raised out there, and that's what we do in our country is we raise questions and then we allow people to respond to those, and we accept those answers if we think that they're justified. And this mandatory hand count will be able to demonstrate to all of us whether the machines are doing an accurate job. And remember, who's involved in this mandatory hand count? It's Republicans and Democrats having eyeballs on everything, participating in it to ensure that the machines are working the way that they should. As far as we are concerned with vote counts today, we're anticipating that we will have our next update in the vote totals in the 6 o'clock hour. Again, reminder, 6 o'clock hour. So that doesn't necessarily mean at 6 or 6:01, but we should all be looking forward to an update in the vote totals at that time. And we are anticipating, again, a similar amount of votes will be reported this evening as we've seen in the last couple of nights. And with that, I will turn it back to Fields Mosley.
Okay, we'll open it up to questions now. I'll start on this side of the room, and let's go to Kyung Law.
Question for the sheriff. Outside, they were announcing that there's going to be another gathering here on Monday. Do you anticipate the same level of law enforcement response that you had today?
Yes, that's understanding also that Monday there will be a gathering again. And, so we keep a foundation here, a foundation to ensure that we are prepared to manage or mitigate any potential challenges or issues on a smaller scale. But we try to stay in front of the information. So fortunately for this facility and for the people therein, we're going to move people here as quickly as we need to address the volume of potential protesters, activists, community members, whomever are outside. I just want to remind everybody, there are a lot of ways that you can express your concerns. You can, find ways to improve who we are as a community and a nation. If being out front for you is one of those things you feel empowers you, then that's wonderful. But just understand, it comes at a cost. And every time we see a larger gathering outside, that means I'm dedicating more deputies inside. Because I have professed this and I will continue to, I will not allow for, nor will I stand for, any threat to this facility, the votes, or the people. So we're not going to wait for you to do harm and then try to react to it. We're going to prepare in advance so that you can't do harm. So there are families out there, there are calls for service, there are deputies who are going to go without the volume of backup or support that they may need because we have to prioritize this facility. So if you want to come stand out front, that's your prerogative, that's your right, that's your freedom. But you are and in one way or another undermining the sheriff's office ability to address the other needs in our community, because this becomes a drain on resources. So we're going to be here through the duration, and and if it's 1 day or 5 more days of folks out front, we'll be here for all of it.
And you just thanked Charlie Kirk for helping you today with that tweet. You want to for more help on Monday?
Yeah, listen, I'm the type of person, I'm going to speak to those who create problems for us and point out that it's not acceptable, and for those who do things that are thoughtful and responsible, that help us, navigate this unique space. So again, I don't know Mr. Kirk, I don't know his organization, anything about it, but I appreciate the fact that he understands, at least in that communication, that he could be helpful to us, and he was. So for others, there are elected officials who are calling for things, and that feels powerful. You call on something, and suddenly you see the crowd summon, and you think that you're the almighty Oz. Well, guess what? At some point in time, we have to address that issue, and we're going to pull the curtain on you, and you're just back there with the handles. But there's a lot of other things going on for people that are in harm's way, and it creates jeopardy. So be thoughtful. Don't treat this like it's just a show. It's bigger than that. It's more important than that. And recognize there's real people back here doing a job, and they get scared when they see people out there yelling, pretty offensive things in this direction. I don't know, do I just come back to you, or how does this work here?
If they have more questions for the sheriff, Austin's with Fox News.
Sheriff Penzone, is it your understanding that the protest activity is finished for today?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I could say that group, from my understanding, has diminished and gone away for today. I have no idea who's in store for what later on in the day, so we'll just kind of keep things as they are for us and manage it as it goes. I don't know what
Leading
you're
up
gonna
to
do. I
the
keep scooting
election,
back and scooting up.
during the press conferences, you guys all mentioned if, politicians or people on the candidates used rhetoric, or on the ballot used rhetoric that would incite violence, that you guys would be looking into working with Maricopa County Attorney's Office. Are you guys considering bringing charges against Wendy Rogers for her tweet that resulted in today's protest?
Well, there weren't any criminal actions that I'm aware of today. But I will tell you this, and I was talking to Supervisor Gates. Listen, if you are an elected official and you are doing things to provoke a crowd to come out front here that can lead to the point of there are acts of violence or crimes, not only should we put you at the top of a criminal report and charge you or request charges against you, but I feel like we should send you the bill. Every time I bring deputies here that I didn't need otherwise because you as an elected official create a problem that causes me to respond, you're a state legislator or senator or whomever you are, then I feel like the county should send you the bill for the resources that we're committing because of your political action that puts others in harm's way.
Will you be doing that?
Well,
Since you did have to send deputies off today?
will I be doing that today? I don't know that we do it today because I don't know if the escalation of deputies today was substantial, but I'm just putting you on notice that don't put me in that place where I have to make that decision. And I'm not even sure the legalities of it, but I'm sure happy to go down that path to see what's appropriate. Can we just stay here until
For the sheriff?
Yes.
Okay.
And Sheriff, did you have a personal conversation with Wendy Rogers about her tweet? We also noticed that a few hours later she then sent out another tweet asking people not to come by. Was that as a result of a conversation that you two perhaps had?
No, I haven't spoken to her. I appreciate the follow-up because it seems as though, between those two tweets that was, and quite frankly, thank you for coming inside because you are the honey to the bees. So when you're inside, it seems like people are less interested outside. But those three elements, the perfect storm coming together, then the crowd shrunk considerably fast. So I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you than that.
And then just to follow up on that, you mentioned that the crowd remained mostly peaceful. Was there any heckling of the people towards the people inside, towards your deputies as well, that concerned you at any point?
Oh, no, I think I was the lightning rod. I got most of the heckling today, but it's not the first time, won't be the last. So, yes, you're welcome, everybody. I'm happy to be that person if they want to heckle me, but otherwise I don't think that, at least I'm not aware of anything beyond that point. It seems as though when I left the immediate area, then they were, very kind to the Phoenix police officers, and my understanding is they're very kind to the deputies. So.
At what point, Sheriff, do you have to bring them back? When do you make that call? I mean, obviously today there was a crowd, but
We had two unique circumstances that occurred today. One, unbeknownst to us, there's some construction, so there were some barricades set up that actually restricted the curb lane on the south side of the road. And those who showed up today thought maybe that was parking for them, and we had to have the Phoenix Police Department move those vehicles off the road and pull those barricades. The other aspect was some of those out there were marching in the street, which not only is it against the law, but it's unsafe. So we want to make sure that that does not occur. Now, these things occur and people are unwilling to abide by our directives, then you're looking at situations where do we issue citations or how do we best solve that problem? We want it to be with the least amount of lawful intervention as possible, as long as you're cooperative. But if you're uncooperative, then you put us in a position to respond a little more aggressively.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm wondering, you've mentioned that before that this is a strain on your resources to keep having to have deputies come out here, and you're already understaffed. So I'm curious about what teams specifically are you taking deputies off of when you're bringing them out here to deal with this, and what's not getting done specifically?
Sure. So, in an organization of law enforcement, you wear multiple hats. So a lot of the deputies that you see out there, some are going to be coming from patrol districts where they would be responding for calls for service. And what we do is we end up going minimum staffing and pulling some of those folks back in an organization that's already thin on staffing. The folks that work, in specialty assignments that track different threats in different spaces, investigators that work on major crimes and general crimes, things like crimes against children, robberies, murders, anything like that. Those investigators may either be in uniform here or working as backups for investigations should there be a crime committed. Our tactical resources, so our SWAT teams, work in some capacity here where they are on site when needed. And then we have what's called field force. Field force are deputies that work in the field, but when these issues occur, they put on the battle armor, for lack of a better description, and they stand by with the more advanced equipment to repel crowds if it's needed. So there's nobody on site that their sole job is let's wait around for a crowd to gather and that's all we do. They have primary responsibilities, and this is their 1A job where, okay, the bell's been rang and we got a bigger issue to deal with, so we're going to come together and we're going to suppress that and push that threat back away from people and from facilities.
And a follow-up on that, is there a dollar amount that you perhaps have of how much resources you have dedicated to ensuring that this is safe and the security that you put forward here?
Well, it sounds like you're asking, like, do we dedicate a specific number and try to work within that scope? Unfortunately, it's a blank check that I send over to the supervisors at the end and say, here's how much it cost. And it does come out of my budget, but we've had the conversations in the past because we've seen what's occurred that we literally have to kind of allocate a line item with an estimated amount of money for the course of the year that is specifically to civil disturbances, major events such as these that are out of the ordinary. And it goes back a few election cycles, and I want to say it was even before I was sheriff out in Fountain Hills, we saw an escalation there where suddenly we had to account for it. But make no mistake about it, it gets into 7 digits. I think the last one that we had over the course of time, it was up over $1 million in additional supplemental